I cannot review Anthem without talking about the bugs, the glitches, some errors which affected the progression system, and of course you have the loading screen, all of which was the main topic of almost every single review, all of which have now been resolved. With the latest patch to the game, the 6 gigabits of data resolved the issues players had within the early access period. The loading screens has been reduced drastically. In fact, it is a lot faster than some of the games that I've played before. Loading into free play took me about 5 to 10 seconds. Entering a dungeon was about 2 seconds. Loading into another expedition was about 10 seconds at the most. Though some people said loading screens should not be available for every single thing, which I do agree. However, I'm still glad that those times have been reduced drastically. The invisible enemies, the invisible walls, disappearing assets, the bane that halted and crippled my experience had also been fixed. All items that could break a boy's spirit was fixed, and all the things that could make a girl go angry and rant for 45 minutes have been resolved. And for this reason, I deleted my initial early access review of Anthem. Anthem is a game that I believe most people reviewed too early. Rarely do we have moments when you see a turnaround, and at this point, I believe this game deserves more than a half-baked review. It deserves to be judged on its own official day release and on its own official day quality. Anthem is a game that sets itself apart from the typical world design of games in its genre. When it comes to looter shooters, you often resort to the dungeon crawlers, the corridor shooters, or the semi-open world designs. The world of Bastion is not only wide but also deep and tall. The verticality in Anthem makes the game one of a kind when it comes to exploration and traversing this beautiful place. The existence of mechanized suits known as the Javelin also makes the mobility of this game a perfect blend for exploration. You can fly wherever you want, as long as you don't fly too high or swing too deep to the point where you die in the water. While it can be said that all that you see in Anthem is green, this world has its own underwater regions, the caves with algae and beautiful ambience. Some areas are shrublands, grasslands, rainforest, and of course within some caves, all you see is desert. The developers have promised to change this living world with upcoming Shaper events and also expand the world, and this Shaper event is supposed to revolutionize the way gamers see seasonal events. This, of course, is something we have to wait to see. Anthem has its own variation of enemies, and if you examine the Freelancer study hall, you will see animals that haven't been encountered in the game yet. What bioware did was create a blueprint that gives them the opportunity to do whatever they want to do. The Anthem of creation is a powerful cosmic force that can create anything, and so does the bioware studio, which translates to them being the Anthem, and this world being their own creation. In terms of combat mobility and modding, Anthem has a very unique design that revolves around what is known as a combo system. You have the primers and then you have the detonators. Combined together, they can result in some serious damage numbers. Without utilizing the combos, enemies will feel like a bullet sponge. Some of them might take 1,000 bullets. However, if you utilize the combos, you will melt them easily. The design of the javelins also makes them unique from each other. It follows the typical class system you see in RPGs, however there is not a healer class in Anthem. Instead, every javelin has a support ability to help themselves or their squad mates. Customization in Anthem is something that the game has leaps beyond its competitors. The javelins are split into 4 sections with the exclusion of the colossus. You have the legs, the arms, the chest, and the helmet, which of course is the head. Within those, the portions are also broken down into 6 different zones for customization. You have the hard zones, which are the harder textures, and of course you have the soft zone, which are the softer textures. You can select the materials, the patterns, the metal type, and you can also create your own color palette for free. And the resources required to do this can be acquired by completing bounties and completing certain missions. In addition to this, each javelin has the option to create 5 loadouts. While Anthem does its best not to hold your hand, BioWare ensures that there are tools available to keep you in the game and not on a wiki or on some website. There are journals in the game which account for the basic information. You have the challenges which keep track of your objectives, and this is also how you unlock the rest of your gear and resources that you need in the game for free. It shows the factions, the story objectives, the gear objectives, the combat, the javelins, and the personal goals. This is every player's way to the pinnacle rewards in Anthem. The library is where you will find all your lore entries, the information about your specific gear items, your weapons, all the way to the secret lives of characters in this world. Items you pick up in the open world or in different missions will be added to your library, and as I stated earlier, there is no need to pull up a wiki or even go back to the fort to check the lore entries. All you have to do is select your options button, check your mailbox, check your tutorials, check these other options, and you will have the tools you need. When it comes to socialization in Anthem, there are going to be two zones. You have the personal one, which is going to be the Fort Tarsis area, and then you have the launch bay, which is the 16-player lobby. These two zones are both equipped with everything a player needs, with Fort Tarsis being geared towards your personal story. And speaking of personal stories, decisions you make will affect the state of the fort and the people around it. You can get some characters kicked out of the fort, you can get people pardoned, or even give relationship advice, interact with individuals, and of course there's even a kids radio station and an adult radio station.
The relic's burning through my circuits. Now we return to our heroes.
I have to silence it! Kista, hold on! Kista! Oh, Kista! Sweet mercies, alive.
Interacting with certain individuals will get the pools cleaned, while certain interactions will increase the fort's economy and bolster the population. Now, in terms of optimization and settings, this is one aspect of the game that still needs more work, but with the recent patch I haven't noticed any hiccups at all and my game has been running very smooth. It comes with the usual display and graphic settings, there is a voice chat, but sadly there is no text chat. This is something that the devs claimed was delayed due to healthcare laws, and while it is quite understandable, we also have to consider the fact that there are other games being put out by the same publisher, which has a text chat feature. But at this point, the lack of a text chat feature creates restrictions for players without microphones or the ability to speak. Accessibility features are top priorities when it comes to game design, especially in a game that requires a lot of coordination. The campaign of Anthem comes with several cutscenes, cinematics, puzzles, crazy challenges, and weird encounters. This is a part that would have received a heavy criticism if this review was done yesterday, but as I stated earlier, all those issues that I encountered earlier in the game had been fixed. The story was interesting, it keeps you engaged from start to finish. I completed my first campaign in about 15 hours. I started the whole thing again, and without the loading screens, it is estimated to be around 14 hours. That is, if you speedrun the critical path. Activities in this game now correctly tracks your challenges and creates a seamless transition throughout the main story, and you also have this amazing connection with each thing. In terms of replayability, this is where we cannot really judge the game. For fans of the looter shooter genre, there isn't an issue with doing the same things over and over. However, if you're not into looter shooters, then things like this would get repetitive to you and get boring over time. There are currently 3 strongholds in the game, which is the equivalence of a Nightfall strike in Destiny, and with the upcoming Act 1 expansion, they will add another stronghold. Now this of course does feel like a mini raid from time to time, and the expansions to the game will also bring more events, new stories, new quests, and new things to do. With BioWare releasing a roadmap that starts few weeks after the official launch of Anthem, players will not have to wait to have fun. The grind is not heavy and the drop rates are not bad. There is monetization in the game, with the highest item costing about $8. But if you just play the game, you will not have to buy a single thing. Now, of course, there is the argument that microtransactions are unacceptable in a full price game. However, there's also another counter that asks the question: how are the devs supposed to maintain the studio, sustain themselves, the developers, the servers, and continuously release free DLCs for the game? These are conversations that I will try my best not to get involved in ever again, since we live in a world where disagreements could lead to hate. Personally, I don't buy microtransactions in full price games, so I don't have an issue with it. The grind of the game will not force you into buying microtransactions either, so I see this as a fair monetization system. When I compare the early access build to the patched build for the game, it feels like a totally different game. Some people will say that the game needs to be stripped down and built from the ground up, but I think as long as the initial programming language for the game isn't sloppy, there's no need to remove a feature or remove an entire game mode. A simple patch will fix these issues. The voice synchronization system is still a little bit crazy, but I noticed a lot of improvements. Tethering and teleportation system has been fixed as well, so it's not constantly dragging you and trying to teleport you or dragging you into another loading screen. Loading screens have also been fixed. As I stated earlier, I don't have an issue with it anymore. Most of the technical issues within the game has been resolved, and the game will continue to receive updates. Another thing that really needs some work in the game is going to be the CPU and GPU usage. Anthem at times will take up to 3.9 GHz on my CPU, and sometimes my GPUs will be running around 90 to 95%. This, of course, is something that happens while I play on ultra settings, but as stated, technical issues are often easier to fix, but I still think that that is a little bit crazy when it is using your GPU up to 95 or 100%. My other issue with the game is going to be with the weapon diversity. While a lot of these weapons perform differently, the game still needs a better appearance system to separate each weapon from each other, make them look unique, a lot beautiful, and a lot menacing. At this point, every weapon in each class looks like the next one, just with a different name or a different color. I would have loved to see some uniqueness like the ones we see in the Destiny franchise, or the opportunity to color and change these weapons. I would also have loved to see additional weapon classes in the game, something that feels like it was forged from the Anthem of creation itself, much like the exotics in Destiny again. Those are the only things that I believe need some work in this game, and I think it was poor making every weapon look generic, but I believe that they will adjust that and add some unique looks to them in the upcoming future. And as long as BioWare stays true to their word and continue to support the game, it will be one of the best games of this decade. Sure, it had a rough demo and a rough early access. The Anthem you see right now is a completely different game. Almost a 9, but it still needs some work. I will also say that this game is a highly ambitious game and it has a lot of potential to build upon. This is my launch day review for Anthem. Anthem is a great game, is a wonderful game. It has its flaws. It is not the perfect game in the world, but it can be one of the best games you will ever play. This game indeed is a marvel. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you found it informative. Hope you enjoyed as well. It's DS signing out. I'll see you in the next one.